that I'd like to draw out is that we have a function or a mechanism called the SPoR, which is a single point of referral, and what that helps us do is it helps from a reablement perspective, but it also helps GPs keep patients who would, you know, maybe in other areas go to an A&E department, but it helps those GPs refer the patients who may need some support, medical interventions or social care interventions, but it can be done in their independent living space where they, you know, where they're residing, and it also helps the hospital discharge patients into a supported living space, i.e. independent living. What that looks like on the ground, and it's particularly relevant because I went to see it this week, and it was very interesting. It was really good to see how it worked. There are social care workers, there's occupational therapists, there are district nurses, there are a whole host of resources from across all the partners that are manning the phones, and they get phone calls from the hospital that they've got a patient who had a fall, needs to be discharged but needs some care from a provider, needs some providing care commission, and that's sort of advised through the SPoR. And equally from the beginning of the life cycle, we've got GPs who refer patients to the SPoR, and then their sort of needs are met. I also witnessed or sat in on a meeting where a number of cases were talked about anonymously, and was very interested to see how it actually works. And you know, case by case, these issues, you know, patients were discussed and their issues were talked through, and a consensus was reached across all the partners that were sat around the table as to the next course of action. And what that meant for me is that kept patients who might in other areas be referred to back into A&E or into some other form of assistance. And the whole solution, it did seem to work. It's not been easy, I don't think, in terms of process. I think when they started there was very little budget, there were very little resources, and it's kind of grown, but it was really interesting to see it work. Does that help, Matthew?
Yeah. And that was jointly commissioned by the local authority and
the CCT
and his predecessor.
Yes.
And how's the money flow from that? Does money flow from both of those commissioning organisations? Are there two contracts? There's one contract. How's that managed?
No, it's kind of that's an interesting point, and it's certainly something that we've been talking about after. Cheryl from the innovation unit, our account manager came down to see it as well, and we talked very much about that. It's not commissioned under a single contract at the moment. The money flow is at best, I would say, complicated because it's not that clear how the money flows through. I think there's a bunch of people there that are very keen on making on delivering a solution, and I think they're leaving that side of things to the organisations to sort out. It's going to fall into the commissioning work stream to actually bring together perhaps a pooled budget where you can then actually jointly commission those services, and you can actually pay for them out of one budget. So it's by no means a finished article. I think for me, what I took away was that it is possible, and I think where there's a will, there's a way, and you can actually sort of make it happen. So